People ask me all the time, who's the one for the future, who's this, who's that? And the one that I've always thought would do billions and billions that no one saw was you.
I just want to win, dude. I think it's just ultra competitiveness. I just want to be the best, and I just want to prove everybody that I'm better than them. Now, I don't think that's good, though.
People say the bull market's over. Some people say it's only just beginning. What's your thesis on where we are in the cycle?
The mania hasn't started, but I do think the next time mania happens, I think it will be the last.
Everyone's been talking about AI in gaming for a long time, but it's never really done what everyone said it would do.
Because I had never seen an industry that had given so many stupid people so much money. AI agents are going to be the future. You're going to be able to just pop in on your phone one day, talk to some AI agent on your app to go do 100 tasks for you. The problem is,
where do you think the best place is right now for people to position themselves if there was a location for them to win?
Anyone who makes money in Europe believes that like you have to go to Dubai. To me, I think Dubai is overrated. The cars, the watches, and the clothes, there's millions of bucks there. If I would have put that in the S&P, compounded it, right? That's fucking 10, 15 million bucks.
One of the worst things that I think I've done in my life was buy a property and pay it off.
It's a broke person mindset. I do the same thing. My only justification of that, to make you feel a little bit better, is I thought that was stupid when I did it, and then I blew it all up, and then I was like, I'm super stoked that I have $2 million in this. So it's a savings account.
I always remember you saying this to me, Frankie, watch how much traffic I blow up with driving it from GIFs. And there's another clip of you saying that you're doing 30 million views a day from GIFs.
300 million.
300 million?
Yeah.
Luca Netz, episode 2, we are back. It's been, I was just saying to you off camera, it's been a year and a half since we last sat down for our episode. But so much has changed for you with Pudgy Penguins and everything you've done. But when I sat down with you originally, you'd only bought the company like a year and a half before we sat down. Now, to see you go from that point where you just got the IP licensed into Walmart to now launching an ETF.
Yeah.
Explain the trajectory of this project and where it's going, because like what I'm seeing right now is everything that you told me was going to happen, but it's like on a way bigger scale than what you even told me back then.
Yeah, I think the company that owns Pudgy Penguins is a company called Igloo. I think the whole entire trajectory of the Igloo has changed since we last spoke. So we have a blockchain that we're building in Abstract. We obviously have Pudgy Penguins, Pengu. 2 weeks ago, we got listed on Robinhood. Yesterday, we announced the ETF filing. I think like where we've gone since we last spoke is I think we've really just concretely like just told ourselves, like, I think we're going to be the guys that are going to push this stuff to hundreds of millions of people. And we started to think a little bit more ambitiously. We started to think, a couple of conversations I had probably right after you and I spoke. So I felt like we were thinking a little too small. And so now we're just trying to capture the entire pie. Like, how do we actually own everything in the industry? And so far, so good.
How did you identify within yourself that you were thinking too small?
I was really scared to go and pivot outside of our core business or to add things on top of, within the Igloo. I think the thought that I just thought about is I started to think like, okay, what is the potential here? $1 billion, $2 billion, but we're in an industry where the potential could be $100 billion, right? And so I think, typically that's kind of been a mantra I told myself when I was younger as an entrepreneur, like always dream as big as possible. And I felt like I wasn't applying that here. And as I started to like explore maybe some of these bigger and grander ideas, I think some of the reception to some of our advisors and the people internally that are in our corner, it was really clear that people were really excited about this grand vision. And I think it gave me the confidence to just be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. See,
people ask me all the time when I've spoken to all these people and entrepreneurs like that I have, they say to me like, who's the one for the future? Who's this? Who's that? And the one that I've always thought would do billions and billions that no one saw was you. Like the moment I sat down with you the first time, I was like, this guy's he's not doing hundreds of millions, he's doing billions. Like he just thinks on a different level. I wanted to understand today how you got your internal why right, because I realized over the years, I've had lots of whys in life for everything I've done, but every single why that I've had in my life has always been external. So with boxing, it was to try and prove a point. With the podcast in its original phase, it was to help other people and this, that, and the other, which is great. You help other people, you help them move forward. But it's like, okay, what's my internal why, which is what I'm looking for right now. With you, I see that you've got a real deep internal why. I want to know what it is that keeps you cooking on this level and how you found it, because that's something that deeply interests me.
Yeah, I think at this point it's probably instinctual, but if I were to like figure out, I just want to win, dude. I think it's just ultra competitiveness. I just want to be the best. I just want to be better than everyone else, and I want people to look back, you know, whether it's an intimate relationship, an ex-girlfriend or an ex-business partner or a friend or, you know, a consumer who's picking which coins and NFTs to buy. Like, I want everyone who didn't place their bets or didn't believe in what I was doing to rue the day. And I just want to prove to everybody that I'm better than them. So I think like I'm pretty honest in this, and it's probably not the best fuel. Like, there's probably a better fuel. Like, I probably should be doing this to like change the world. And I think like there's stories that I tell myself that I think are along those lines. But if I understand like my emotional scale and I figure out like what makes me super excited and what makes me super upset is like when I'm winning and when I'm losing. And if I really think about my core driver, it's competition. Now, I don't think that's good though. Like, I think it's good and it's bad. It's great because, you know, I think it's a really powerful fuel, and I'm a huge sports fan, somebody that's been watching sports for a long time. But I do think there's like a better fuel and maybe a deeper purpose, which would be something along the lines of, you know, I'm doing this to change the world or to help people. And all those things reign true. But I think if there wasn't a chip on my shoulder and something that I was trying to prove to the world, I think I probably would be a lot less willing to go through the pain and the sacrifice that building a business like this kind of requires.
So would you say then it's almost worth keeping that chip, keeping that bit of pain within you and not really processing it fully so that you can still relentlessly apply it and pursue the mission?
Yeah, the billionaires and the guys that you talk to will tell you, you know, try to find a different mission, try to find a different fuel, and try to remove that from the equation. And to be frank, I can kind of see why, because sometimes you're too busy competing instead of maybe driving the mission of the brand or the company, right? Like, competing to win and building a transcendent brand that hundreds of millions of people know and love are not necessarily synonymous, right? Like, they're two different, I think, mindsets. But nonetheless, like, it is the thing that drives me. It is the thing that excites me. It is the thing that motivates me. And I think a lot of people who have kind of graduated to like the upper echelons in life at some point, you know, built businesses the way that I am. I think it's just a process and the evolution. I think probably next time we talk, you know, because I'm consistently and consciously trying to work on this every single day. I think probably next time we talk in maybe 2 years, maybe it's a little bit different. Yeah. But in these last couple of years, and it wasn't even prior to my, you know, the businesses before this, it wasn't like this, right? I was doing that to change my family's life. I was doing that to change my life, right? Like, those previous endeavors weren't this, but this Pudgy Penguin chapter is a chapter of competition.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting one.
It's interesting how you've gone from your why being about helping the family and putting everyone on the financial straight, and now your why is like, okay, I want to prove I'm the best.
Yeah.
And then once that chapter's end, there'll be an evolution of self, and that you'll have to find something. I kind of feel like, you know, I've gone through all these chapters of different whys in my life, and I'm in the stage now where I'm cooking a new one, and I don't know how it's quite going to land, but I know it needs to be super internal and super purposeful to drive me to the next level. Otherwise, it's not gonna. It can't just be about fighting the world anymore. There has to be about something bigger. But I presume that's just because I'm 36. I presume it just comes to you with as you age. You know, your purposes have to change.
You evolve.
What's going on with this ETF, and how have you seen the foresight of wrapping up an ETF and bringing it to the world?
Quick one for you guys. If you're loving this conversation and you're getting immense value, consider hitting that subscribe button and turn the notification bells on, as it lets us know that we're creating the right content for you at the right time.
Yeah, I think for us, just like once this new administration came in, like we've just been gung-ho since Trump got elected in terms of like what we're doing, our willingness to do things. You know, we launched Pengu in 5 weeks, 2 days after Trump got elected. And the U.S. politicians and just the government in general, is their willingness to just go and support these things and allow these things to get pushed through it's finally here. And so, it's my job as a competitor and as a leader, like I've got to go where the puck is going. And this is where the puck is going. The puck is going institutional. It's going to retail, and it's my job to speak to them to the best of my ability.
So how does, like, in terms of like what you're doing, like how does that affect the consumer? Like, because when you think of the consumer, when they initially got they're initially looking at Pudgy Penguins, they were looking at the NFTs, they were buying the art, they may have gone in store to buy a cuddly toy. Now you've turned it into this token and tokenized it. So how is it being used and consumed by the consumer?
Yeah, so I think from like an alignment perspective, one of the big problems that we had at Pudgy was, our NFTs today are $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. At one point, a couple months ago, they were like $150,000. Like, the brand has millions of people that know and love it. And right now, the only way to be in that Web3 ecosystem, to be a part of that nucleus, that really tight group of people who, really are curators and, co-creators of what we're building, was kind of blocked by a really expensive barrier to entry, right? Or entry point in the NFT. And so I think from the token side, it now opens up the floodgates to anyone, right? To basically align themselves and to participate in the co-creation of this brand. It gives them visibility and access to things that, the average toy buyer or Instagram follower would never have access to. I think the things that you're going to see from us in the next couple of months is really integrating Pengu into the entire Pudgy Penguin economy, right? And how do you basically create something where somebody can basically take this token and pay for a meal with it, right? Or buy their favorite product with it, or, use it to get visibility and make decisions on where the brand is going. I think like our concept of this is very much an ecosystem token or a social currency that is kind of embedded into in people's everyday lives, right? Like if Bitcoin is digital gold and XRP is replacing banks, then how is Pengu, this generation's, Mickey Mouse and Disney, and how is that flywheel integrated in a way that I think only crypto and blockchain rails can kind of enable?
Give me a bit of an insight into this narrative with the crypto market at the minute, because obviously people say the bull market's over. Some people say it's only just beginning. What's your thesis on where we are in the cycle?
I think until interest rates really start dropping, the mania hasn't started. But I do think the next time mania happens, I think it will be the last. The last, at least the way that we've seen it. Because crypto's getting to a certain size where the drawdowns are less aggressive, but also the upward momentum is a lot less aggressive. And I think there'll always be opportunity in the space, because the beauty of crypto is like things can exist at $1 million market cap and be at $1 billion market cap within a couple days. Like, that opportunity solely lives in crypto. That doesn't live many other places, if any, probably nowhere else. So there'll still be pockets, but you probably remember, like myself, because you've been around, like, there's been months in crypto, years ago, right? If you just look back over the last 10 years, there's probably been like 6 to 7 to 8 months total where like, holy shit, like you can't even believe what's going on. Everything is up thousands of percents, I think that is slowly going to come to an end, but I think we might have one more crack at it. And I think we have it in the next 18 months. And I think that's where things are going to get really exciting and really nutty. And I think that will be probably the final hoorah. So I actually kind of psyched myself out because I thought we were in a bull run, and we technically, obviously, were. We're probably in a little bit of a drawdown now. A lot of coins, if you're not Bitcoin, you're in a pretty bad spot as of recent. But I do believe that my generation only knows a bull market with low interest rates, and we haven't had low interest rates, right? Interest rates have been really staying at like a close to a high here over the last couple of years. And so I think the big signal for me is when the Fed starts cutting and we get into that like 2% level. Once you get into the low 3s, the high 2s, I think that's when risk is going to be really on. And crypto is the best risk on asset out there by orders of magnitude. And I think we're 18 months away from that. Or some way between the next 6 to 18 months, somewhere in between then.
So you reckon if it's not kicking off in 6 months' time, then we're in a massive drawdown from there, you reckon?
I think you got to give it 18 months to make that decision, but you'll know it. I think at some point in the next 6 to 18 months, the mania will start. And it will be like one of those epic bull runs, and you'll have a couple months to get in and get out. And it will be epic. There was a little bit of that in October, November, probably November, December.
With the meme coins.
There was a little bit of that, but it was too fleeting, right? I think I thought it was going to last a little bit longer. But there was a little bit of that, but I think we have one more of those in us.
Would you class like Pudgy as something that's gone from like a meme narrative to something that's gone more professional, more IP, and over a long period, whereas some of these other memes are not going to do the same thing as what you've done?
I look at Pudgy Penguins and Pengu as like a social currency. So I have this whole article that's out there basically saying that like I think meme coins are one phase of a process, but I think the final phase of a meme coin is to become a social currency. And so like why I believe that is when you think about it, meme coins have a huge opportunity to push the space forward, but fundamentally they're flawed in how they're positioned because they're assets that are supposed to do nothing. But I think like to claim that meme coins should remain assets that do nothing and that are nothing, I think is a huge disservice to ultimately the asset class and what they can become. And so I believe that meme coins start off at meme coins, but I think the best ones should evolve into what I call a social currency. And so a social currency is very much a meme coin. It's just a little bit of an evolution of a meme coin or the next chapter of a meme coin where intrinsically it shares all the same properties of a meme coin. It's fun, it's lindy, it's speculative, but it also has a little bit of a moat in the sense that there's some fundamentals behind it, right? And that these people that are building social currencies are trying to take these character tokens and push them to the world, right? And I fundamentally believe that when you take that approach of actually trying to build something fundamental around a meme coin, you actually get what I believe is probably the best recipe for success, which is, this constant delivery and creation of more demand and more conviction, which ultimately leads to prices going up. So I just believe that like, if you look at the top 10 meme coins, why shouldn't they all graduate and evolve into becoming a social currency? And if they did do that, what would that mean for the industry? Well, that would mean more products on shelves. That would mean more content on people's feeds. That would mean, more partnerships with global brands. And all of those things, when you kind of combine them together, they create a moment where you're adding more credibility. You're adding more tangible trust and familiarity. And you're also creating more demand and bringing new people into the space. And so that, the Pudgy Penguins playbook compounded 10, 15 times by these meme coins or these coins with huge market caps and huge access to liquidity, have an opportunity to not just sit back and say like, this is great, this is awesome, but they have the opportunity to, take that momentum and take that growth and compound it and snowball it and create it into something bigger that brings more people in, that takes away some of the taboo that I think the space has. So I think from my perspective, that's where I want to see the top meme coins go, is I want to see them, evolving to becoming a social currency. have them, integrate into Shopify, have them integrate into, some of your favorite brands' websites, have those collaborations, put them on TV screens, put them on streaming networks, put them on games, and then integrate the coin in those. That is nothing but a net positive to, I think, the entire ecosystem. And when I mean ecosystem, I mean crypto as a whole. And so I think this is just like, meme coins can't, I think, stay as is, because 99% of people lose money in them. Right? So like, if I want to believe in a meme coin, right? Like what am I necessarily supposed to believe in? Because today, unless you're an idiot, like, that they're just a giant game of musical chairs, right? But if you know that your meme coin is not only just a meme coin, but also a social currency, then maybe you believe that, the fundamental of what this IP could become, and this is your opportunity to get in early.
Guys, before we go into this podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. If you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything else online, go to contentremoval.com. We've looked after everybody from the likes of Alex Hormozy, Kayla Racines, Tammy Hembrow, to a whole host of other brands and celebrities that you know and love. And we'd love to help you with your issues online. So if you have any issues online and you want to get in touch with us, click the link below this video and go to contentremoval.com.
Yeah, I think the whole space is wide open for disruption when it comes to all that. When it comes to like crypto gaming and AI, like I know when we spoke last time, I think you told us a few different places to look, but if you're looking at the whole crypto market as a spread right now, and obviously you're building in the spaces that you're building in, so but if there's another space that you can't build in right now because you're concentrated over here with what you're building, where would you look to build if you were someone listening to this, like if there's a piece of blue ocean?
I think it's consumer. So like, the problem with blockchains today is that they've been so diluted by the financialization of it. Like, people are actually misinterpreting the properties. Like, a blockchain is borderless payment rails that can tap into global liquidity, and there's no Stripe or PayPal to shut you down. Like, if you actually think about it, it's like one of the greatest things ever, because if anybody here has like built, an internet business, you already know how big of a problem that is, right? And like, blockchain rails like completely avoid all of that nonsense. And so I actually think the industry is in a phase of its life cycle where it's like, yeah, we have ETFs getting approved and getting filed. We have, some of the biggest banks and the president, doing a strategic reserve. Like, the institutions and the big money is here. But escape velocity, though the big fish control a lot of capital, like, the escape velocity really comes through consumer adoption, right? And like, consumers really adopting products that they use in their everyday lives. And if crypto wants to be what it wants to be, which is the payment rails for this next internet economy and the foundation and the backbone for this next internet economy, then it needs to win consumer. It needs to break through to consumer. I mean, we've probably had maybe 4 or 5 things in the history of crypto that have broken through into consumer, and they were huge net positives. I mean, we have OpenSea and NFTs, right, which was a huge consumer moment. You could probably put Bored Ape in that bucket. You have Poly Market. You have, maybe you could put Pudgy Penguins in there. What other true, and then Pump Fun is like probably a great, consumer product from that perspective. But, 5 consumer products, and you can literally look at them and be like, these consumer products created waves, right, in their own right. And so if you had like 500 of those, or 50 of those, or 100 of those, we'd be in so much of a better spot. But the upside in crypto, I kind of said this. I say this to a lot of entrepreneurs, and you have an entrepreneur podcast, so I'll share it. But people ask me, like, why did you come into Pudgy Penguins? And, there's a lot of different reasons, but I think the entrepreneurial reasons, because I had never seen an industry that had given so many stupid people so much money. Meaning like, I've never seen such a low quality builder and entrepreneur make so much money in an industry, and the bar is still insanely low. I mean, look at it. Like, the Igloo is $1 billion business on paper per our last fundraise, give or take $750 million, right? what we did is super impressive, but like there's other guys that can do that, and obviously maybe I cut ourselves a little bit short, but it's possible. I know of guys that can do what we did. And I think they're just kind of, a lot of people are, building their own businesses, doing their own things. But fundamentally, I think there's, huge opportunity here for hungry entrepreneurs to come in and to win this race, because there's still so much on the table for so many people, specifically around consumer.
But everyone's been talking about AI and gaming for a long time, but it's never really done what everyone said it would do. Is that still an opportunity as well, or was that boat missed? I
actually think AI is going to open the floodgates for crypto, and I think like they're very synergistic in a lot of ways, because AI agents are going to be the future. You're going to be able to just pop in on your phone one day, talk to some AI agent on your app to go do 100 tasks for you. And the interesting part about AI agents is there's, they can't go open up a bank account, right? Like if I gave my AI agent 100 tasks on things that I needed done, probably 20 of them include transacting, or 30 of them, maybe even 50% of it would include making a transaction. The problem is you need a social security, or you need some sort of identification to open up a bank account, right? So they'll never allow that. But again, if only there was a permissionless payment rail that anybody could use in blockchains, then, oh wait, there is, right? And there's tons of them. And so I actually think the AI stuff, I think, is going to accelerate crypto in ways that I think people can't imagine. And I think the agentic race and a lot of AI products are going to be built on top of these rails.
So when you say agentic AI, like how do you describe the opportunity there?
Yeah, so I believe that everyone soon will have AI agents who are either purpose-built or general purpose, depending on the complexity of the task that you're looking to build, in which you can kind of speak commands to them and they will do it. Meaning, I could tell an AI agent to go get me my groceries this week on Amazon, send my mom some money, make this trade, make sure I make 1% on this trade this week, or I make $500 on this trade this week. And, I want my girlfriend to get some flowers, and I also want to book this trip for vacation because I've been working hard, and I want you to make sure that the trash comes at 5 p.m., right? That is something an assistant can do. My assistant does those exact things for me every single day. I think an AI, there's no reason an AI agent can't do exactly that for you. And he can do it, if it takes my assistant 4 hours, it will take that AI agent 30 minutes, if that.
And how far away from that right now?
We're 18 months away from that.
And what do you see the future of the job market looking like for everyone when all these AI agents start coming in and taking over?
It will adjust, right? So though I think I'm actually a believer in universal basic income. I don't really see a world, because there's businesses, when you deal with like crazy revolutions like the ones that we're dealing with right now, like the AI revolution, everyone thinks that like jobs will drop off a cliff, but you have to understand, for like the jobs that you lose, there'll also be replacement jobs. But I do think they'll reach a moment where like the replacement jobs will be significantly smaller than the jobs that are being lost. Because as a business owner, AI just makes so much more sense, right? So like every business owner who wants to optimize for his profits will fire everybody and replace them with robots to the best of their ability. I think I have an interesting theory here. I think universal basic income will be a thing. Everyone will get a minimum stipend. I think arts will go through the roof, right? So any creative industry, it's probably take this over the next 5 to 20 years. I think creativity will go through the roof. So I'm long human creativity, because AI will never be able to replicate that, because it's just embedded in our DNA, right? And I think probably in these next couple of years, you'll probably get more job creation because they'll build all the data centers and they're building the foundations for this next generation and this next evolution of where the world is going. And then probably after the 5th year from today, 5 years from today, you'll probably get to a point where, you'll have to introduce some sort of basic stipend, because the people who are really going to get crushed here are the people with like no skills. So like, and not to say that, this person has no skills, but the jobs that require no skills is probably the better framing. So like, me being a cashier, like I don't need a skill to be a cashier, right? If I'm waiting tables, I don't necessarily need a skill to be skilled for that. You can be a good personality, etc. But I think, or let's look at it even way more significant. Remove those, because that's probably, you need robots to replace that. So let's look at like customer service. Customer service, you've got a customer service job, you're going to be out of a job in 18 months. Guaranteed. It's already happening at an incredible rate. There's no reason why anybody should be picking up the phone or chatting. Like the LLM's already better than you, and like in 100 different ways there. And think about like, that's millions of people, right? That just in one sector. And then like basic software engineers will be replaced, right? So it will, basic HR, and accounting, CPA, controllers, things like that.
Guys, over the last 5 years, you've watched me travel around the world building this podcast in 9 countries with over 200 entrepreneurs. And one of the key things that I've learned is that every single one of these successful people have a playbook. They have a play-by-play of how they're going to operate their life, their mindset, and everything else so they can scale. So they can scale their money, their business, their life, and everything. I want to break that down for you. So what I've done is I've set up a weekly email that's going to be going live week in, week out, giving you a play-by-play of some of the most top entrepreneurs in the world, so you can understand how they're executing on their plan, so you can execute on it too. If this is something that interests you, click the link, sign up to the email below, and that'll be coming out weekly.
Watching something the other week where someone took their best salesperson, they'd cloned his voice and proof maybe 100 of his calls, and then had his AI out there selling their product, and it was just talking to the person just like normal. And that's literally now. Yeah. So in 18 months, 24 months from now, I don't believe you on the phone you'll be talking to humans on sales calls even.
I totally agree.
I think you'll be able to be, hopefully even with my business, I don't think I'll have to have sales staff. I think I will just be able to have an AI that is trained even in my voice, even on my sales process, and it could just be me talking to them at scale, and any questions they ask on a call, you could just give them a rebuttal. Is that where you see it going?
I totally agree, and I totally see it. And you're right, sales is a perfect. I actually didn't believe sales for a while, and then I was like, oh yeah, I saw a similar example. I was like, oh yeah, this is donezo. Yeah. It's just so. Like, where's it going to go? I think there's going to be a large cohort of people that are going to need some sort of minimum stipend, and they're just going to coast and float through life. Most people already do that, right? That's, if you were a customer service agent, you're actually more stoked to get the same money doing nothing and reading books and living your life and being a human than maybe just sitting in a cubicle for 8-9 hours a day. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We just have to make sure that the math works out, but it's going to work out.
I tried 11 Labs' new voice cloner the other week, and they've just raised, I think, another 75 or 100 million or whatever they've just raised. But I tried it, and honestly, the clone is near on 80%, 85% perfect, professional. Like you'd struggle to know unless you knew. And you could, so it's even like podcasts. What do you think that we do? Because obviously you can now get a clone of you and a model of how you think, and a clone of me, and then you can even clone our physical appearance now, and this conversation could happen via AI, and it could all just be programmed. You don't even need to leave your house. So what's the future of podcasting, do you think, based upon that?
I think podcasting falls into that realm of creativity that I spoke about. Like, I think there's just something about human connection. We are tribal beings, right? And this is like part of that tribe. I don't think those will fall off a cliff. Like, people will still want to be humans. Like, probably a contrarian thesis to my whole universal basic income, and this is probably actually maybe even more likely than even where I think it's going to go. I probably would like it to go that way because I think humans should spend more time being human and sitting in their humanity. But like, people don't realize like AI is gonna like allow us to build cities like under some water and like on space, and like think about like all the things that it's gonna unlock in like science and physics, and like we're gonna have like, you know, maybe we lost all the customer service jobs. Maybe all these guys go to, you know, screwing bolts on spaceships, you know, and like, you know, plowing the ground on the ocean floor and like making crops. I actually think like with AI that, you know, every futuristic sci-fi movie you've ever watched like has had some sort of AI into it. Like you only get to that type of future with AI. And think about how the world's changed in 50 years, like with the pace that we're on. The AI accelerates the pace 1,000 times, right? So if it took us 50 years to go from like, or call it, let's do 100 years. 100 years to go from like horses and wagons and like, you know, bicycle wheels on a engine, you know, for your first ever Ford motor and like barely being able to fly, to like, oh, we're going to Mars now and we're going to space, and like we did that with maybe 5 years of some like average AI, you know. You know, the AI that they've been using for the last 10 years was probably less powerful than what you have on your phone in ChatGPT. So now you're looking at like, what are the next 50 years? I mean, dude, like I would be remiss if I don't go to the moon one day. You know, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if like going to the moon wasn't like you'd probably have to be rich to do it. But I would be shocked if going to the moon wasn't like a rich person thing, like going to an Amman somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think it's going to be like that. It has to be because it's just so fast.
You're thinking about going to the moon. I'm thinking about how a dinosaur like Shopify gets replaced because of their DMCA takedown process. I mean, you're seeing a lot of Ecom people get taken out week in, week out, can't keep their products online because of fraudulent DMCAs and stuff like that. I'm looking at that as a business, as a prime business in this AI time, where people are going to be hosting like their e-commerce stores on chain or some form of chain to protect themselves from these fraudulent requests, to protect themselves and their products online, because they're getting taken out week in, week out. Now you imagine if you're running ads and running, because you were in ecom early doors, that's where you started, right? So you imagine people running an ad budget to this, and it's constantly taken out by Shopify. That to me is the dinosaur technology that gets taken out first, because they need to really change that. Is that something that you see shifting?
I totally see that. I thought you just gave a really brilliant idea. So I appreciate you saying that. I totally see it. I mean, you know, I also thought this is a thing I tell myself, but I'm like, look, if anyone here is listening to this, you got 5 years not to die, because I think we're probably 5 years away from like half of the illnesses being chronically removed. I think it's probably another one, but I think like if you don't die in these next 10 years, I think you'll live to like $120, $130 easy. Of course you will. You know,
because everything will be able to be caught early, won't it? But
you'll be able to cut early. They'll be able to zip you up and tie you. You know, they'll know exactly how to get that shit out of you.
There's already certain AIs doing operations and lens replacements on eyes and all sorts of stuff right now. Like, you know, I was speaking to a surgeon the other day at the gym, and he was telling me like there's already AIs doing lens replacement on retinas and all this kind of weird stuff that's going on, and people don't realize this stuff.
Yeah, you got 10 years to keep you and your family healthy, and to make some money along the way, and I think you can live a very long time.
In your opinion, where should people position themselves in the world to win? Because obviously you're in Miami, you travel to Dubai all the time, you're in Singapore, you're in Australia, you're all around the world with what you're doing. Where do you think the best place is right now for people to position themselves if there was a location for them to win?
Miami and New York is where Miami, New York, Los Angeles, but it depends on the industry. But those are the only three places to be to win, in my opinion.
So Miami,
and then if you're
New
in Europe, I guess, you know, the psyop right now in Europe is like, you got to go to Dubai, you know what I mean, for taxes and things like that. But to me, like and I've been probably, you know, since we last spoke, I've been traveling like a madman. And you got to give credit to Asia. So I'd probably say like, I'm talking about like somebody like me, my age. So say south of 30, right? Or somebody like that, south of 30, it'd have to be LA, Miami, New York. With New York definitely being the best place, but the toughest place, right? I couldn't do New York, right? So I think Miami is a good mix between New York and Los Angeles. And then it also depends on the industry, because I think it's all industry relevant. But if I was under 30 and I was figuring out a career path, the only career path that makes sense to me is AI and crypto, and I would be in New York or Miami. And I'd be doing New York, Miami, or the Bay, right, if I'm in AI.
You talked about Dubai there quickly. I've lived in Dubai myself. What is your thoughts on Dubai, and why do you believe it's a psyop?
It's interesting because I think it's just great marketing and great branding, but it seems like anyone who makes money in Europe believes that like you have to go to Dubai, right, to evade, to not pay taxes, and then like that is the place to be. I think Dubai is overrated. But what's not? I think like Abu Dhabi is like underrated, for example.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. But I think Dubai is overrated. There's just something that doesn't feel right to me there. Me and you talked about this. You said nature. Nature's a good one.
I personally think if there's any place to be in the world right now, and it's one that I'm trying to figure out for myself, it's Miami.
Yeah,
right? I agree. Ever since the first time I came here, when I met you the first time in 2023, I'm like, okay, I've got to find I know my life ends up here in some way, whether it's 3 months a year, 6 months a year, or whether it's the whole year. It's got the Gold Coast vibe that I loved in Australia, but it's also got the city vibe where I can achieve something. It's also got access to the US market. I think any entrepreneur in Dubai right now sitting there worrying about taxes, I think you're off your head. Because I think you should be thinking about building a bigger business, paying Caesar a little portion of that business, and building and build.
You know what somebody said to this point, and I thought it was because I was debating going to Puerto Rico, and I asked one of my friends, and he was living in California at the time.
Yeah.
And I said, "You're making so much money. Why don't you move to Puerto Rico?" He said, I don't make money to live in a swampland. He's like, I make money to live the life I want to live.
Yeah.
Not to go fucking hide in some burrow somewhere so I can save some money on taxes. And I found that to be really meaningful to me when he said that. Because it's like, yeah, every day counts, dude. And if I'm in some fucking place that I don't like, again, everybody's different, right? Like, so I sit at the house all day, so it might not matter where I am, but I still like to be around, like I still like the culture and the vibe here. But there's something to be said about that, which is like, I don't make money just to go fucking burrow away somewhere, right? I make money to be free. Like, money is freedom. That's all it is, right? Money is the ability to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And if I am trying to go to a place that is underdeveloped or subpar to maybe the next place because I want to hoard money, then I am actually leveraging money as my prison and not my freedom.
It's such a relevant topic, because when I was in Australia, I absolutely thought, hey, I want to save money on my taxes. I want to cut this down. I want to do this. I want to do that, which is fine. But when I moved my life to Dubai, my life was actually worse for me, than living in Australia. I loved Australia. I loved it. It lit my heart up. I paid my taxes. I got my physical rate down to 15% anyway. But I'd been sold this narrative by social media that I'd got to lower my taxes more, pay zero, pay this, pay that. And I gave up the lifestyle of Australia, and then of course I live in Dubai, and I'm walking around there in the middle of a hot, sweaty desert with people that are just consumed by materialism and wearing Fendi, and I'm like, what the fuck am I here for? Like, this is not me. I should be out doing something meaningful, not sat here in a desert. And that's how I felt the whole time I was there. And I suppose as you're traveling around the world, you've seen some of that type stuff.
Yeah, dude.
And another thing that's interesting about you and other people that are playing at your level is the fact of, like, you're not worried about all the materialism stuff, even though you got the money to do the materialism stuff. You're building shit.
Dude, it's the complete opposite. I'm about to fucking trade in the Rolls Royce for the Jeep. I told him, I'm like, dude, the Jeep is so much better than the Rolls Royce. I'm like, dude, the only thing keeping me attached to the Rolls Royce is the fact that I paid so much, and if I sold it, I'd realize a loss. I mean, dude, I'm down 250 grand on this Rolls Royce, bro.
But when you bought that, didn't you tell me you bought that because the weight of it was a tax write-off?
The weight of it was a tax write-off, but it's like, that's just a story. That's like me moving to Dubai because I want to get rid of taxes. You know what I mean?
So that was just what I'm saying is the reason I'm reminding you of you saying that to me is because that was the same psyop.
Yeah,
buying a dumb car like that for the tax write-off is the same psyop as moving to Dubai.
Totally,
that's the exact same psyop.
Same thing. And it's like, dude, I'm in his Jeep. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, top down, whole thing open. I'm like, wind hitting my left, my right, my head. I'm like, bro, this is great. Music's right behind me. The speaker system in the Jeep's like behind you. I'm like, this is fucking way better.
So what is the biggest lesson that you can drop from your years in entrepreneurship then? From all this wisdom where you've been all around the world, you've built in different environments, you've seen all these different cities and places you can build. What is, if there was an overarching thesis to how you'd tell everyone on this audience to live their life for the next 12 months to set themselves up for the next 30 years, what would that thesis be?
The problem is I'll tell it and no one will listen because I heard it 100 times and I never listened, and you can't feel it. You won't know it until you feel it, which is like everyone that I know that starts off making money as an entrepreneur always blows it on stupid shit. And I think like my biggest regret, dude, is I had made so much money over the last 8-9 years. And I could have so much more to show for it. And I just blew it on so many things that I thought were important. The watches, the cars, the houses, just to optimize for the Instagram story and the Instagram post. And my best advice for people going and starting or trying to scale their entrepreneurship career would be around being really smart with your money and being fiscally responsible. Like, compound interest is an interesting thing. I've been investing since I was 18. I looked at some of my Robinhood returns. I've been crushing it. I've been buying Bitcoin since it was since it was $5,000. You know what I mean? On Robinhood since it was 15. I'm like, dude, I still underperform this SPY and QQQ, bro. All I needed to do was buy one stock, the stock that everyone and their mom tells you to buy, right? The S&P 500. Everyone and your mom has told you to buy that and just compound that. Like the compound, if I would have put all my money, instead of blowing it on dumb shit, let's say I took 80% of the money I blew on dumb shit and I put it in the S&P and I just kept on doing it, I'd have an extra 10, 15, 20 million bucks, dude. You know what I mean? Liquid cash ready to fucking at 25, an extra $15 million at 25, 26. You insane? You know how much that does? You know what I mean? And then what would that look like 10 years from now? It'd be like 50, So
you're honestly sat there saying that buying Bitcoin at 15 grand and you'd still rather have gone into the S&P 500?
Totally, because the problem is though I bought my first Bitcoin at 3 grand. You get chopped up. Just because I bought it doesn't mean I didn't fucking sell it at 18 and then bought it at 6 and then sold it at 20. And I made some great trades, but then I also made some dumb ones, right? Like I bought it at bought it at 60 and then sold it on the crash at 30 because I was getting margin called and just doing stupid shit, So they even themselves out as the problem. I've had some legendary trades, don't get me wrong. But I was like, dude, and I'm not even saying don't make legendary trades and don't take risks. Like the whole reason why I'm here at Pudgy Penguins, because I was like, dude, I'm 22, I need to take a risk. You know what I mean? I haven't been taking risks, and all the rich guys are saying you got to take risks, and I haven't taken one yet. So I bought Pudgy for $2.5 million because I was like, it's time for me to take a risk, and to put something on the line and get something serious done. But the big thing for me was just like, dude, like the cars and the watches and the clothes is the biggest waste of money, dude. Like the cars, the watches and the clothes, there's millions of bucks there. Like probably over the last 8 years, $2-3 million. If I would have put that in the S&P, compounded it, right? The way that works, that's fucking 10, 15 million bucks. At least.
It's crazy. One of the worst things that I think I've done in my life was buy a property and pay it off.
Yeah.
That was the stupidest decision of my life, and I did it because I like it's just
it's a broke person mindset. I do the same thing. I've done the same thing, which is like, so I grew up bouncing around home to home. So my whole thing was like, I need to buy a house.
Yeah,
I need
a base.
I need a base. I need a base. You know, my only justification of that, to make you feel a little bit better, is I thought that was stupid when I did it, and then I blew it all up, and then I was like, I'm super stoked that I have $2 million in this. So it's a savings account. It's a shitty savings account, but it can be a thing that can save your ass in case you blow it up.
It's one of the only assets because everything's just locked up in it.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't. It's so hard to move it because it's not tokenized. You can't just sell it. You can't make dumb decisions. So it just sits there. It just earns rent and it does its thing.
Yeah.
But I still think it was a shit move.
Agreed.
Like there's so many other moves in life I could have made that would have made my family's life better, you know, my potential future family's life better, you know. But we all get missold this thing, the buy the house thing, all these different age-old programs. I think unless you're someone like Grant Cardone that's buying thousands of units or this, that, and the other, I think you're wasting your time. And from what I've seen in this game, in the business game, that your biggest money plays are not made by buying real estate. That's just for people when they've got wealth, they want to store it somewhere and they have to park it somewhere. But like people like yourself, you're not buying real estate. You're investing in brands, in marketing. And I've honestly loved. I know we've got to go because you've got a meeting soon, but I've honestly loved to watch your journey since we did that first podcast and just see you blow it up. And also just as your final statement, I just want you to touch upon, because I always remember you saying this to me in the room before we left the podcast room last time. You said to me, Frankie, watch how much traffic I blow up with driving it from gifts, right? And then I looked before this podcast, and there's another clip of you saying that you're doing 30 million views a day from gifts.
300 million.
300 million.
Yeah.
That's
like 60 billion views now, and it's like. It's a huge moat as to why Pudgy is so valuable.
I know, and we were talking about a few million a day when we were talking about it, and it's like, and the one thing I want people to take away from this podcast is that you always look for ways outside of the normal ways to drive traffic to your brands. And I want people to study you, because obviously this podcast is a quick one today, just firing around just to catch up on the stuff. But I want people to study you when we leave this conversation today, and I want you to look at where he's placing the puck. You talked about it in this podcast, where he's placing it, where the puck's going. But I want you to study where he markets and how he drives traffic to his brands, because that will unlock a new door for you. I won't tell you everything, but just look. Yeah. And that is Luca Netz. Thank you very much, brother.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Guys, I hope you got value from this podcast. And if you did, hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on. But guys, I've got these videos here that will take you to a whole new level as well. So don't sleep on these.